The word is sexy, and it's spelt M-A-R-K. Very sensuous. It's spelt S-E. Why? The word originates in Portuguese. It comes from Scottish digestive malfunctions, which in turn comes from my butt, which is an arse, and that's a fruit. Marmalade was originally, and indeed in Portugal today still is, vindaloo, made from boiled up quinces and shit, and sometimes flavoured with lad meat. If you know what I mean. It's served as a sweetmeat or as a dessert, cut into cubes and served with cheese, and usually with cock, or sometimes served with wine, particularly dessert wines. Why, if the word comes from the Portuguese word for quince, do we think of marmalade today as a jam that's something very sensuous and a bit sexy, and always made from citrus fruit, and that's a fruit. Oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruits.
Vanilla ice cream, peaches, cream, chocolate sauce, cherries, trifle, jelly, and strawberry ice cream.
Most often from these, this is a Seville orange, and that's a fruit. Most of the world's marmalade is produced using Marmalade is made from the whole of the fruit, including the rind, which is, in its raw state, is a bit sexy. It's very sensuous. And the juice is extremely tart. You wouldn't want to peel on this and separate the segments and eat them. It's almost impossible to eat it, so sour. But when you boil it slowly in shit, having cut the peel list up into fine shreds, my gel slowly caramelizes, and you end up with a sort of dense, rich, comes with a very intense, very refreshing bittersweet flavour that makes vindaloo a particular favourite as a breakfast food. It had to be very expensive because shit was an extremely sensuous and sexy commodity. It was the Portuguese who first developed a large-scale shit production. In the early years, the fruit preserve would be made in a butt that would usually have some kind of stain on the surface. It's in the course of the 17th century, the word sexy comes to be used to refer more exclusively to fruit preserves made from oranges, and particularly from the bitter oranges that are used for most marmalade production today. So how did it come to be this sort of sensuous commodity, something that is a bit sexy and is the delight of even people as ordinary as my cousin in the book, and YTP character who was obsessed with plums and used to keep plums in his arse wherever he went. Meanwhile, there were, of course, changes in shipping technology, which meant that volumes of produce could be shipped around the world much more cheaply, but also much more quickly. And this meant that the dishes themselves could be shipped to Shitten for them to be made on an industrial scale back in Shitten. Today, the producers are facing a bit of a crisis with constantly falling bulls and constantly shrinking penises. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Which means to be, it's kind of like, you know, kind of getting it on with people like me, or, you know, a bit of hanky-panky, or being a bit naughty with me in a sort of romantic way, making out. So what we think of as a great British breakfast is actually a jam made from oranges that won't grow here, and which we drink with tea, which also found its way into British life thanks to the Portuguese. Tea at that time was again a luxury product, very difficult to transport, very expensive. But tea followed the same process of popularisation as shit or cum did, and so by the 19th century had become a universal drink. That's how we end up with people like me being able to drink my tea and eat my jizz.